Nintendo is making a Zelda movie, and fans are really concerned they're gonna mess this up.
Nintendo has a history of kind of making a mess of translating those games into series.
So we ran an audience perception test and asked fans what they want to see in the movie. Did you know that Nintendo is coming out with a Legend of Zelda movie in 2027? You probably did because you're probably a fan and that's why you clicked on this video. For those of you who aren't fans like me, unfortunately I didn't grow up playing the game and I didn't really know much about it until we conducted our study. Zelda is one of the most popular gaming franchises of all time, and our CEO is a huge fan. With the movie scheduled to come out in about a year, we thought this was the perfect opportunity to use constellations. We wanted to get real audience feedback and test what fans think the characters should look like in the movie.
Pretty exciting. We're coming up on the 40th anniversary here in just a couple of days. We're recording this February 19th. February 21st, 1986 was the release of the original Legend of Zelda game. And, it's a nerdy thing I grew up with playing, but there's been so much written about the game and just its approach to storytelling. There's an entire book on the psychology of the Legend of Zelda that's a really interesting read for anybody who's into that stuff. And they've always just been groundbreaking. I think Shigeru Miyamoto is not credited nearly enough for the impact he has had on the way human beings interact with machines, with video content, not just in the gaming sense, but so much broader than that with our mobile devices and anything that has interactivity to it.
The franchise really pushed the boundaries of gaming by introducing groundbreaking innovations like
not giving the character a sword or a weapon or anything, that you had to go and you had to get it before you started, that it had an open world concept.
Those things were cutting edge in 1986, and that's only part of the reason.
The story itself is beautiful, and the artwork has always been stunning, and the gameplay, everything about it's been phenomenal, and it continues to be one of the most popular and famous games of all time.
With the movie on the horizon being released in May of 2027, there are some mixed feelings.
The Zelda fan base and community is excited, but there's also a lot of hesitation. Nintendo has a history of kind of making a mess of translating those games into series. The Super Mario movie made in the late 80s, early 90s was, like, by all measures, a disaster. It had very little to do with the original game. It was weird. It's not remembered fondly at all. The new one, home run. I think they nailed that. I think everybody agrees it's a really popular film and it was really well done. And so the hope is that the Zelda movie will be really well done.
There's a lot of hope for the movie, but there's also a lot of uneasiness that they're going to make a mess of this beloved story and franchise.
And so we wanted to get feedback from different kinds of audience members, people who are part of the fandom, and then others who maybe are familiar with it but don't know it quite as well.
In this study, we asked more detailed questions than we typically would with a rebrand. We know how passionate Zelda fans are. There have been so many memes and discussions over the years, especially within the communities, so
we wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of, okay, what does each character look like? What characters should be in the film? What storyline should be tracked down? What symbolism should be used?
We made 6 boards total. One for each character or category, composed of images from different iterations and fan art across the different games.
Here's one for one of the heroes of the franchise, Zelda. The hero, Link, the main character that you play as in all the games up until their most recent edition where you get to play Zelda. Ganon is the main villain throughout the series, and he appears in a bunch of different forms across different games, even as multiple forms in some of the same games. And then we had a collection of supporting characters who were good guys, the people who help Link in his journey throughout the various games over the years. And then supporting villains. The diehard fans would know backstories and side stories to each one of these swatches. And then lastly, just some symbolism from the cutscenes, from the game boxes and manuals, from the books that have been published over the years.
So Joe is going to cover the highlights we gathered from our heat maps and touch on the key points from our AI analysis.
We made a specific AI model just for this analysis that has all the typical design and semiotic context, but added to it a familiarity with the franchise, with the lore, the fan fiction and theories that are out there, as well as game development and expert understanding of the production for different systems over the years. And what it came back with was really powerful and insightful. And I hope that, it's not too late for the movie producers to take a look at this and maybe consider it or even run a test of their own to get a larger data set and feedback and guidance on what's going to, really resonate with the audience for this film.
So let's get into the results.
So for each one of the boards, we asked it to create a breakdown of what the character should look like and how that character should be represented. So you can see the four highest scoring examples of Zelda. Very clearly, adult Zelda was the winner, and really Ocarina of Time Zelda, even Twilight Princess version of Zelda, are very, very similar. She's very regal looking. She has a very traditional storybook princess kind of outfit, exception being the scene here, but all of these depict her as an adult and as very serious. The things that didn't resonate were the more playful iterations. The Wind Waker Zelda, when she's kind of a pirate, a little younger in appearance and also just different personality, less solemn than some of the counterparts. And then, early in the timeline iteration, Skyward Sword, she has quite a different appearance that didn't rank well. And then the Dragon iteration from the latest mainline game, that was strange for people. We're going to see that overall, if we look across all the boards, it's clear that what people want to see in the movie is the Ocarina of Time story. And so when we come down to the hero and look at Link, that's crystal clear. And I think the only swatch out of all six boards that achieved 100% positive was Child Link. And then other classic green tunic Links did really well. That is what people expect to see. It's not the blue outfit or any of the other crazy outfits that you can put on him. This is iconic Link, and the movie should absolutely 100% represent him as such. Hopefully, that's the path that the movie is on if they want to keep both fans and newcomers alike happy with the film. I was surprised and disappointed that Dark Link scored as poorly as he did. I have my dark tunic on for this interview here. But that has been a fan favorite for a long time. Maybe should have considered him a villain instead of an iteration of Link. And then Shade's Link, I think most people don't know that backstory, and this is completely unrecognizable as Link. And so it's not a surprise, I guess, that he ranks so poorly. And then Ganon, just make him really scary. He's pretty diverse across all of these, but the human version of Ganondorf, I think, would lend itself to the best story, with maybe a climax at the end where he becomes Beast Ganon like he does in so many of the games. Don't make him cartoony. Those didn't perform well. Again, the Dragon Zelda and the Dragon Ganon, people aren't super familiar with that part of the story unless you're deep into the game and put in the hours to actually beat it. And then it was interesting to look at the supporting characters. The Deku Tree did excellent. That wasn't a surprise. It's kind of a typical hero's journey, personality, and character, and is instrumental across the series. Some of the ones that I was surprised to see do as well was Marin. She's really an obscure character, which I think was probably confused with Malone from the Ocarina of Time character. They look similar, but that was interesting. And it could just be the art style and the character design itself. Certainly Sari from Ocarina of Time is a more popular and well-known character. And then poor Tingle here, he just didn't do well at all. And then, while Majora is pretty far removed from the mainline story of the Triforce of Link, Zelda, and Ganon, for whatever reason, that character has really resonated with people over the year in terms of story, but I think also in terms of aesthetic and just the character design itself. And so that might be something that could show up as a fun teaser at the end of the movie, that maybe a sequel is in the works and it does go down that path and explore that character more, as opposed to Ganon, the mainline villain across most of the series. So other notes, just the idea of painterly naturalism is a theme that comes up over again. That dramatic lighting and very grandiose landscapes and portrayals of characters seem to be right. I know that the production team is looking strongly at the Lord of the Rings films for this movie. I know that that was a huge inspiration for Twilight Princess in particular, and that I think is 100% right. I think that goes to the broader idea of the genre of fantasy, that this is the aesthetic that we expect from a fantasy film, which this has been a fantasy game. That's what it's going to be. But I also think the big takeaway in terms of which game to lean on the most is going to be the Ocarina of Time. As somebody who's been playing it since the original, I absolutely love Breath of the Wild. I really love the very first 8-bit game, as primitive as it is. But the Ocarina of Time, that's the one where the story was just so developed and thought through, and the gameplay was so groundbreaking, and the characters are just iconic. I think the data supports the idea that that is the quintessential Zelda game. The AI that we built for this one, the way we were able to take our typical analysis data set, model, and then adjust it for not only a movie, but a very specific movie with a rich history in terms of technological development, but also in terms of story development over 40 years. There was just so much here. And I was just blown away when we ran the report, just the depth of insight that it was able to get based on real audience data. This wasn't just scraping the internet and hoping for the best. We were able to take the visual opinions of 30 people, small data set again, but a range of people who were super nerdy about the game and people who knew what it was but didn't know much more than that, and get insights on what characters to include or not, how to represent the mainline characters for maximum impact, how to develop the story and overall aesthetic of the film. I mean, it was really phenomenal. It's a long report, but anybody who's interested in fantasy genre movies or The Legend of Zelda in general would benefit from reading it. It's pretty impactful.
On behalf of all the fans out there, I really hope the producers get it right. Hopefully, they see our study and take into account what the people want so that they can produce this in a way that keeps their diehard fans happy and maybe creates new fans.
Yeah, let's hope they hit a home run with the Mario movie. There's another one coming out in just a few weeks here in April. I'm hopeful. As a Zelda fan, I have my original Legend of Zelda cartridge behind me. Been a fan a long time. Love the lore, love the stories, love the psychology, just the depth of game development and human behavior component. There's just so much here. They have a lot on the line with this one. I know they are putting all their resources into it. And if we can help at all, give us a call.
You can read the full report from this study at constellations.app. While you're there, explore how Constellations helps creative teams gain clarity, or share an idea you'd like us to explore in a future study.